Have you ever stood in front of a motionless creature, so still that you thought it had given up, that it was dead, that there was no life left in it? And then, in a single moment, it sprang to life, unleashing all its energy in one sharp, precise strike, and you realized that the silence was never the end. It was only the beginning. Let that image sink into you. Let it settle in your bones, because that is the truth of your journey. The world once looked at you in the moment you stopped moving, when you stopped trying to please everyone, when you sat quietly in a dark room, and they called it failure. They whispered, "It's over. They've given up." But what they didn't know was that the stillness was only the prelude to another symphony. A symphony only the chosen souls can hear. People often mistake silence for surrender, but your soul knows the truth. It was never defeat. It was the gathering. Imagine a bow being pulled to its limit, the string trembling as if it might snap. From the outside, someone might think this backward pull is retreat, is weakness. But you know, the more it is drawn back, the further the arrow will fly. That retreat is not escape. It is preparation. And you, in your long days of silence, are that arrow, charged with energy in the dark, waiting for the moment to soar, to pierce through everything that once held you down. Just like the deadly snake in the dry desert, it does not move constantly to prove it's alive. It does not rush forward only to exhaust itself. It stays still, coiled tightly, conserving every drop of life force, waiting for the right moment to strike with unstoppable force. Its silence is not surrender, it is survival. And you, the chosen one, are just the same. Your silence is a sacred art, the art of readiness. Perhaps you remember those days clearly, when people looked at you and saw only stillness. They thought you had lost your way, that the light in your eyes had gone out. They walked away because in their eyes, silence holds no value. But what they didn't see was that in your silence, you were redrawing your own map. You were not idle, not broken, not lost. You were loading. A new upgrade, a version of you the world has never seen, was forming. In this world, people are obsessed with movement, with noise, with busyness. If you are silent, they think you failed. If you stand still, they believe you've fallen behind. But the chosen souls know a truth the crowd does not. Stillness is the phase where the soul contracts to gather strength, like a river that looks calm on the surface, but beneath, the current is swirling, collecting power, getting ready to erupt into a waterfall. There are long nights when you lie there, with no one who understands, no one by your side. You think you're losing. You hear the whispers, feel the judgment, see the eyes that dismiss you. But if you look deeper, you'll see this is not a funeral bell. It is a battle drum. You did not vanish. You are entering the deepest part of yourself, shedding old energy, awakening a new being in silence. The stillness you experience is the first doorway of your journey. It is an invitation from the universe, asking you to pause, to pull inward, so you can once again hear the true voice of your soul. And like every sacred invitation, it does not arrive with noise. There are no fireworks, no spotlight. It arrives in silence, in darkness, in emptiness, so that when you think everything is lost, it's actually the beginning of everything. Think about those moments when you close your eyes and all you hear is your heartbeat. Do you see it? Even the heart has pauses, only to beat stronger again. Your life is the same. The silence is not the end. It is the universe taking a breath, preparing for your powerful return. Chosen one, you have not failed. Your fire is not gone. You are only coiling, like the snake before the strike, the arrow before its release, the seed before it breaks through the earth. All the eyes, the gossip, the laughter, they see none of this. But your soul knows. You are not being defeated. You are being summoned. And then, one day, when the silence has done its work, when the energy has been fully gathered, you will explode forward. Not to prove anything, not to seek applause, but simply because the moment has come. And when that moment arrives, no one can stop it. So do not fear your silence. Do not panic when the world turns away, when they look at you and think you've fallen. Remember, your stillness is proof that the universe is training you. And like all powerful beings, you don't need noise to prove yourself. You only need preparation. Chosen one, breathe these words with me. You have never failed. You are simply coiling. And from that coiling, A divine strike is about to be born. Do you remember when you pulled back? When you retreated inward, the world thought your fire had gone out. They assumed you had been defeated, that your inner light had died, that you had nothing left to give. But if they had looked closely, if they had eyes sharp enough to see, they would have known this truth. You never went dark. You simply unplugged from outlets unworthy of your energy. You didn't lose your light. You just stopped leaking it into places that could never contain your power. Imagine a battery. It cannot shine forever if it only gives and is never recharged. And you are the same. You were once the power source for so many others. You lit the way when they were lost, warmed them when they were cold, restored their faith when they had nothing left. You became a charging station for everyone else, but forgot that your own battery had limits. There were days when the red warning light blinked in your heart, telling you that you were running on empty. And if you didn't stop, if you didn't unplug yourself, you were going to crash. The world looked at your withdrawal and labeled it escape. But your soul knew it as self-preservation. They called it ghosting. You called it grounding. Because the truth is, you carry too much voltage to keep plugging into sockets that leak, into people and connections that can't hold you without short-circuiting your essence. The world wanted your light, but few were willing to protect it. So you did the only wise thing left to do. You disconnected. In your silence, they thought you had powered off. But what they didn't realize was that you had entered stealth recharge mode quietly, privately, without fanfare. You were reclaiming every drop of energy you had once spilled, every current you had once sent to the wrong hands. And in doing so, you learned a priceless lesson. Your light is not to be used carelessly. Your energy is not meant for anyone who simply reaches for it. The stillness you entered was your surge protector, the safety switch that saved you from burnout. You were tired of being the bulb, the generator, and the wire all at once for everyone else's emotional blackouts. You were exhausted from playing savior to crises that never ended. And when your own light began to flicker, no one noticed. No one cared. So you chose to stop. They saw you sitting quietly, no longer giving like before, and they scoffed, saying, "You're done." But in truth, you were just wrapping your wires, coiling them neatly to protect the core within. You didn't break. You were simply not in use. Like a lamp with the switch turned off, the bulb still intact, still waiting for the power to return. In a world addicted to display, to flashing lights and constant updates, your silence became an uncomfortable announcement. People got used to your glow. They got used to your radiance. They got used to you being the one who always lifted them up. So when you went quiet, when you stepped away, they felt the void. And instead of admitting their dependence on your light, they chose to mock you. But you know the truth. You are not dim. You are not weak. You are not defeated. You simply stopped throwing pearls into lampshades that never deserved them. You didn't hide your light. You just reignited it. You didn't vanish. You were recharging so that when you return, you won't flicker. You won't fade. You will blaze. One day, when your power is full again, you won't need to flicker to prove it. You'll shine steadily, boldly, proudly, and those who walked away during your silent season will no longer be able to handle the intensity of your light. They will have to cover their eyes, their ears, because this light is no longer one to borrow. It is the sacred glow of someone who has learned never to leak into the unworthy. Think back. How many times did you try to save others while your own heart was running low? How many times did you give your energy when your battery was already flashing red? And in the end, you realized this wasn't nobility. It was spiritual suicide. The soul was not born to be a generator for everyone. The soul was born to shine in the right place, for the right people, at the right time. So you chose again. You pulled back, not because you were weak, but because you were wise. Not because your fire had died, but because you refused to waste it anymore. And in that silence, you were reborn into an energy source that now knows how to protect itself. Chosen one, your retreat was not defeat. It was wisdom. Your silence was not fear. It was freedom. You did not walk away because you were drained. You walked away so you would never be drained again. And while the world waits for your proof, you no longer need to prove anything, because when your current flows again, it won't ask for applause. It won't need validation. It will hum on its own. It will shine on its own. And your presence will shift the atmosphere. So breathe and remember, you were never off. You were just recharging. And one day, When your battery is full, you will shine brighter than ever before, not to serve, but to exist. Not to be someone's lamp, but to be the lighthouse of your own soul. In the days you chose silence, the world believed you were stuck. They saw you not moving forward, not racing ahead, not showing up on every stage, and they assumed you had stopped. But the truth is, in that silence, you never stopped walking. You were simply moving to a different rhythm, the rhythm of your soul, the rhythm of the chosen. They saw you sitting still, but inside, you were observing, recording, decoding every movement around you. Have you ever noticed that the loudest people often learn the least? They rush, collide, fall, then repeat the same cycle. They confuse constant motion with true progress. But you are different. You understand that wisdom is not found in speed, but in clarity. You choose to sit, to watch, to listen, to learn, because you know that a single wrong step in a maze can send you back to the start. So, instead of hurrying, you study the map. When you sit still, your eyes open to what others never see. You notice who truly claps when you win, and who only pretends, waiting for you to fall. You see who smiles in congratulations while hiding envy in their eyes. You recognize who disappears when you need them, and who only shows up when they need your light. You don't react. You simply remember, not out of fear, but because you are gathering data. Your silence is not emptiness. It is the careful documentation of a chosen soul. You are like a researcher behind glass, observing every movement in the room, every laugh, every glance, every handshake. You don't need to act, because truth reveals itself with time. And when the pieces of the puzzle come together, you will know exactly who belongs beside you and who needs to leave. While they think you're lost, you're discovering shortcuts. You learn from their mistakes. You watch their falls, so you never repeat them. You memorize the traps disguised as opportunities, the ones they rush into out of impatience. But you choose the slow path, because you know that one accurate step is worth more than 1,000 rushed ones. And then, that silence gives you the ability to read what no one dares to speak. You hear the advice masked as concern that is actually rooted in jealousy. You detect blessings that are secretly wishes for your failure. You see through the fake affection, dressed up in pretty words. All of it becomes clear when you're no longer distracted by noise. You choose not to respond, not to criticize, not to expose, because you know not every red flag is worth your pause. Some signs require only distance, not confrontation, so you let silence be your shield. People see your stillness, and they laugh. They think you're powerless. But the truth is, in that silence, you've already moved 6 steps ahead. And when you rise, you won't move to prove anything. You'll move to place yourself exactly where you belong, beyond the reach of those who once underestimated you. Some may see you standing still and assume you're lost. But when you start walking, they'll be stunned. Not only have you moved ahead, you've gone so far they can no longer reach you. Because you don't move with the crowd. You move with insight, with deep understanding. You know this world is filled with sweet traps. Some opportunities are mirages. Some handshakes are bait. And thanks to your silence, you've seen them all. You chose not to enter. You chose not to react. You chose to smile and remember. That is the wisdom of the chosen soul. No need to rush, to compete, to prove. Just observe. Because truth always reveals itself. And all you need is to stand still long enough to witness it. Chosen one, never doubt the power of your silence. Don't let mocking voices convince you that stillness means weakness. Only you know that in the quiet, you're redrawing the map. You're decoding the game. You're holding the key to ensure you never fall like before. And when you will move with certainty. Not to chase, but to lead. You will move with the quiet strength of someone who has seen it all. And in that moment, you won't just take a step. You will shift the space around you. You will change the landscape. Remember, your silence was never the end. It was your eyes opening. It was wisdom being forged. It was insight earned through solitude. And that is why, when you finally step forward, it will be a step no one can stop. Have you ever felt like your old skin had become too tight? The roles that once fit you well, the clothes that once made you feel comfortable, now feel suffocating. Like a cage, you can no longer breathe in the roles the world once applauded you for. That is not failure. That is the first sign of evolution. Like a snake, there comes a time when its old skin can no longer contain its growth, and it must rub, must shed, must endure the roughness so a new layer can emerge. You are the same. People think your retreat is fear, that your silence is a sign of hurt. But you know the truth. This is the natural process of the soul. You are not fading. You are transforming. You are not shrinking to escape. You are breaking through your old skin. A new version of you is rising from within. This shedding is not pretty. It's not Instagrammable. It's not dazzling under camera lights. It's messy. It's chaotic. It's full of tears, cracks, and long nights no one sees. But within that chaos, a new order is forming. You feel old connections fading. Relationships that once felt familiar now feel distant. Thoughts that once felt right no longer align. You don't fit the old picture anymore, and that hurts. But remember, the pain is not because you are falling apart. It's because you are growing. Growth always carries breaking. And you, the chosen one, are walking through that pain to prepare for a new form. In this journey, there were moments you thought you were falling apart. But in truth, you were being rebuilt. The universe knocked on your old foundation and saw it couldn't carry the weight of your future. And so, a new blueprint was drawn. That's why everything in your life feels like it's being dismantled. Your job, your relationships, your beliefs, your habits, all of it being reset, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you on stronger ground. And right here, the prophetic number 444 appears as a sacred stamp. If you've seen 444 showing up in your life on the clock, on license plates, in random moments, it is not by accident. 444 is a whisper from the universe, reminding you that your foundation is being rebuilt. It is the number of stability, of order, of a sacred structure forming. It comes to softly tell you, you are not losing anything. You are being rebuilt on stone, not sand. Remember, when a house is torn down to be rebuilt, in the beginning it looks like a mess. Outsiders will see rubble, broken cement, twisted steel. They'll say, this is a collapse. This is failure. But the architect knows, this is not collapse. This is reconstruction. And the universe is the architect of your soul. In silence, in chaos, you are being rebuilt. Chosen one, do not panic when familiar parts of you start to disappear. Do not fear when old habits, old people, old roles fall away. That is not loss. It is clearing. The universe never takes away what you truly need. It only removes what no longer has space for who you are becoming. And from that emptiness, a new version of you will rise. A version with new thoughts, a new heart, and new energy. A version of you that no longer tolerates meaningless loops, no longer endures draining relationships, no longer chases hollow validation. A version that is steadier, more open, and far more clear. In the silence of this evolution, you may feel alone, but that's because you've stepped out of the crowd and into the depth. The crowd cannot follow this kind of growth, so they misunderstand and label it as failure. But you know, your soul is being upgraded. You know this shedding is not to make you smaller. It is to shape you into the size of the destiny you were meant to carry. People will say, they're gone. They're not who they used to be. And you will smile. Because they're right. You are not who you used to be. And that is your greatest gift. You were not born to repeat an old version. You were born to evolve, to become. So if right now you feel like you're melting, like you're falling into chaos, remember this. It is the sign of your rebirth. And when you see the number 444 on your path, know that the universe is sending you a divine seal of confirmation. Your new foundation has been laid, and it is stronger than anything that came before. Breathe deep. Feel it. You are not losing yourself. You are being rebuilt. You are not falling. You are shedding. And when the new skin appears, it will carry strength, clarity, and steadiness you've never known before. Chosen one, let this process unfold. Do not rush it. Do not cling to the old. Let yourself shed. Let yourself grow. And when you emerge with new skin, on new ground, you will understand that the silence was never failure. It was the sacred construction happening behind the scenes. There is a strange truth that only those who have experienced it can understand. To someone who has never gone through transformation, a cocoon looks no different than a coffin. To the outside world, when you disappear, when you retreat into the dark, when you no longer show up at gatherings or leave footprints on social media, they are quick to conclude, it's over, they're gone. But you and your soul know the truth. This is not the end. This is a sacred phase. a silent preparation for your rebirth. Imagine the tiny caterpillar before it becomes a butterfly. It must close itself off inside a dark, still cocoon. No one sees it anymore. The world might think it has vanished, but inside, a revolution is taking place. The old body breaks down, dissolves into fragments and cells, and from there, a completely new form is built. That process is not gentle. It feels like death, but in truth, it is rebirth. And you, chosen one, are in that very cocoon. Your silence confuses the world. They are used to seeing you shine, to you always being present, always being the one they lean on. When you disappear, when you stop radiating light for them, they whisper, "Something's wrong. They're weak now. They're gone." But you know you haven't vanished. You're simply in a sacred cocoon, where the universe is shielding you from the noise, so you can fall apart and rebuild from within. They have never seen true transformation, so they don't understand. They've never sat long enough in the dark to hear the voice of the soul, so they think silence is failure. They've never dared to let their old selves die, so they think retreat means collapse. But the truth is, you are not collapsing. You are unraveling. You are being carefully dismantled to make space for your truest self to emerge. Inside that cocoon, you have faced your deepest parts, your fears, your darkness, buried memories. No audience, no spotlight, just you and the truth. You've cried, you've trembled, you've felt yourself dissolve. But through that dissolution, a new structure has begun to form. That's why silence, as painful as it is also a blessing. The world thinks you've been buried, but in truth, you've been planted. Burial is the end. Planting is the beginning. The cocoon is not a coffin. It is a second womb where new life prepares to emerge. You have not been buried. You are being born again. And when this rebirth is complete, you will not emerge the same. You will no longer be the caterpillar crawling. You will have wings to fly. That's why the universe hid you away, so no one could interrupt this sacred process. So when you return, no one can deny that you are completely transformed. Inside this mystical cocoon, the DNA of your spirit is being rewritten. You are being reprogrammed. Your energy is being upgraded. Old memories are being cleared. Old wounds are being healed. A new frequency is being encoded. All of it happening in silence. No spotlight, no applause, no audience. Just you, the universe, and the sacred transformation. Chosen one, do not fear your cocoon. Do not believe the whispers that say you failed just because you went quiet. They don't understand, and they don't need to. Rebirth never needs witnesses. It needs darkness. It needs solitude. It needs patience. Remember, the cocoon doesn't ask the world for permission to become a butterfly. It simply closes itself and transforms. And so do you. You don't need approval to be reborn. You don't need to announce your change. You only need to allow yourself to dissolve, so you can be rebuilt. One day, when you step out, the world will be stunned. They will ask, "Where did they go all this time?" And you won't need to answer. Your wings will answer for you. Your presence will answer for you. Your energy, your light, your strength, these will become the proof. Let them think the cocoon was a coffin. Let them believe you were gone. Don't argue. Don't explain. Because when you rise, the truth will reveal itself, and no one will be confused anymore. Chosen one, you are inside a sacred process. Your cocoon is not a place of death. It is a place of birth. And when you emerge, you will not need a funeral, for you were never dead. You were only being born again, to live larger, to fly farther, and to become fully, unapologetically you. When you retreat into your own cocoon, when you choose silence over visibility, the world grows uneasy. They don't know what to call your disappearance, so to comfort themselves, they label it with two familiar words: failure. They want to keep seeing you perform, keep consuming your sparkling moments, keep scrolling through your beautiful highlights. But you know what you need is not a stage. What you need is the process. This world worships display. It applauds dazzling trailers, celebrates neatly edited stories, and craves perfectly filtered photos. But the real process never catches their eye. The real process has no beautiful lighting, no music in the background, no cute captions. The real process is tears in the dark. It's questions with no answers. It's long nights spent facing your rawest truth. And Chosen one, have chosen the process over the performance. There were nights you lay still, no posts, no words, and the world concluded they've disappeared. But you know you haven't disappeared. You're melting down in order to be reborn. You're entering the hardest part of healing, the part no one sees, the part no one applauds. And that is exactly what makes it sacred. People want you to keep dancing on their stage. They want you to keep fulfilling their expectations. But you are tired. You no longer want to be an actor in someone else's script. You want to be yourself, in the roughness, in the honesty, in the cracks. And that makes them uncomfortable, because they no longer get to be entertained by you. But you know this time, you're not here to entertain. You're here to be truly free. The truth is, healing is not beautiful. Healing doesn't fit in a photo frame. Healing doesn't come with cheerful captions. Healing is messy. It is ugly. It is silence and tears, and you chose it. You chose the process, even if it brought no applause, even if it made people turn away. Chosen one. Remember, you don't need to showcase your process for it to matter. You don't need to post every step to make it real. Your process is sacred. It is private. It is something only you and the universe understand. And it is that privacy that gives it power. This world confuses performance with existence. They think that if you're not visible, you no longer exist. But the truth is the opposite. It is when you stop performing that you finally start to exist. It is when you go silent that you begin to hear your soul. It is when you disappear from the spotlight that you find the light within. You may have felt this already. Your disappearance caused some people to walk away. They stopped texting. They stopped checking in because you no longer gave them what they wanted. And at first, it hurt. But slowly, you realized that wasn't loss. That was cleansing. Those who only loved you when you shined, those who only stayed when you gave, cannot survive in your true space. And their absence is a gift. It frees you from the performance. Chosen one. Ask yourself, do you want to live for applause or for freedom? Do you want to be seen for your performance or for your essence? Because that is the difference between a drained life and a true life. In this silence, you are learning to honor yourself, even when no one sees. You are learning to value each small step, even when no one claps. You are learning to love yourself not for your achievements, not for your shine, but simply because you exist. And that is the foundation of true freedom. And right now, if you're hearing these words, if something in you is stirring, take it as a reminder. You don't need to perform to be worthy. You don't need a spotlight to be enough. Your process, even in the dark, is sacred. And if you see yourself in this journey, leave aside a quiet whisper in the comments, just to confirm with your soul. I don't need to perform. I choose the process. Chosen one, this is not disappearance. This is return. This is not emptiness. This is new ground. A place where you will rebuild your home not to impress anyone, but to truly live. So be patient with yourself. Don't rush back just to prove you still exist. Let the process unfold. Because when it's complete, you won't emerge as a tired performer, but as a healed soul, grounded and radiant. And that light, it won't need a stage. It won't need applause. It will be strong enough to change every room you walk into. There is a truth that only chosen souls ever have to face. Silence is not just a pause. It is a test. It does not come to punish you. It comes to prove that you are ready for greater power. And the true challenge is not whether you can shine before a crowd. It is whether you can stand strong in the dark when no one is looking your way. This world has taught us to believe that value comes from spotlights, from applause, from visible numbers. But your soul knows the truth. Real value comes from presence. No audience needed, no proof required. And so, the universe places you into a season of silence, as if to ask, can you still believe when no one sees? Can you still tend your fire when no one is blowing on the flame? You've sat in an empty room, no messages, no check-ins, and you've asked yourself, am I still being called? Am I still chosen? In that very moment, your heart trembled. But if you made it through, you now understand being chosen by the universe has never depended on the applause of the world. It has always been there, even when no one acknowledged it. People may say, if it mattered, why does no one talk about it anymore? If it was powerful, why did it disappear? But they don't understand that the greatest things are forged in silence. The greatest seeds are never planted on a stage. They are buried deep in the soil, far from the eyes of the crowd. And your silence is that soil. Chosen one. This is your proving ground, a place where you learn to stand not on applause, but on breath. A place where you're tested not in the spotlight, but in the stillness, where you learn to keep walking even when all praise has gone quiet, when the lights have dimmed, when all recognition has faded. This is where you learn to hear the voice of your soul more clearly than anything else. Yes, silence can hurt. It echoes like a loud emptiness. It makes you wonder, does anyone still care? Does anyone still see me? But then you realize in that very void, you've started to hear the voice you forgot, your own, the voice of your soul, a voice no longer drowned by the noise outside. And that is the gift silence brings. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to rush into the light just to scream, I'm still here. Because when this season of silence ends, you will emerge with a strength no one can shake. A strength that doesn't depend on applause. A strength built not from artificial lights, but from true presence honed in the dark. And if, on this journey, you've started seeing the number 555, know that it's not a coincidence. It is a prophetic signal, a message from the universe that grace is upon you. 555 is the number of sacred change, of divine shift, of open doors. It's a whisper that this challenge was never meant to crush you. It was meant to grant you a greater grace. It says to your soul, you are not alone. New life is about to rise. People won't understand. They will look at you and think you've lost your way, that you've been left behind. But in truth, in this silence, you are being wrapped in a grace they cannot see. Remember, grace is never loud. It does not boast. It comes gently, like light falling on the deepest parts of your heart. It lifts you not so you can rely on applause, but so you can stand on your own unshakable foundation. Chosen one, this is the season of 555, the season of divine change, the season of abundant grace. Do not fear the quiet. Do not tremble when no one stands beside you, because the truth is, you are being prepared for a transformation that cannot be stopped. So, if you find yourself in the dark, lift your head and remember this silence is not abandonment. It is confirmation. It is not here to strip away your worth. It is here to lay down your foundation. And when you rise, you will carry a strength no one can take from you, because it didn't come from the crowd. It came from the universe. Take a deep breath and say to yourself, I am in the test, but I am not alone. I am covered in grace. I am entering the season of 555. And if this speaks to you, leave your mark with the number 555 as a quiet confirmation that you are ready for the divine shift unfolding in your life. Chosen one, remember this. The final test was never to win in front of the crowd. It was to stand strong in the silence. And you have done it. Have you ever seen a predator in the wild? It's not loud. It's not hurried. It doesn't flaunt its power. It stays still. It observes. It waits. Every breath is measured. Every movement is deliberate. And then, in a single moment, when its prey least expects it, it strikes. Fast, clean, precise. No second attempt needed. That is the art of silence. Not weakness, not hesitation, but strategy. And you, chosen one, are being trained in that very art. To the world, you've been quiet for too long. They think you've run out of fuel, that you've lost your edge. But the truth is, you are calculating every move, studying every shift. You are not lost. You are waiting for the moment. And when that moment comes, you won't need to explain. Your action will shift the entire room. People confuse noise with strength. They think the loudest one is the strongest. But you know the secret: the loudest is often the weakest, because they need noise to cover the emptiness inside. But you don't need to shout. You only need silence, focus, and the right timing. That is true power. Your silence is not passive. It's not surrender. It is precision. It is discipline. You are not driven by anger. You do not react emotionally. You don't let yourself be pulled into petty battles. You know your energy is too valuable to waste on meaningless fights. You choose silence not because you have nothing to say, but because you've seen too much and you know too well. The world wants you to respond, to react, to play their game. But you sit still, you observe, you take note. And that very silence unsettles them, because they can't read you. They can't predict your next move. That is the advantage of stillness. It makes you a mystery. Chosen one, You've learned that not every battle needs the sound of clashing swords. Some are won with patience. Some are won by staying out of the trap. Some are won with a single, well-timed strike that silences everything. And you are entering that art, the art of strategic silence. You no longer need to prove you are strong. You don't need to shout for justice. You don't need to chase validation. You only need to keep observing, keep holding your frequency, and wait for the moment the universe has already appointed. Because when that moment comes, you won't move out of rage. You'll move with clarity, and clarity cuts deeper than any weapon. Remember, the predator doesn't roar to prove itself. It only needs one precise strike to change the game. And so do you. You don't need noise. You only need the right move, and that move will echo farther than 1,000 explanations. People won't understand. They'll look at you and think you've given up. But when you act, they won't see it coming. They'll be stunned. They'll be unsure should they fear you or admire you, because true power never announces itself. It simply arrives. Chosen one, honor your silence. Don't let anyone force you to react, to rush, to make noise, just to prove something. You know that real strength lies not in volume, but in precision. And you are preparing for a move so precise, no one will be able to stop it. Let them talk. Let them laugh. Let them think you've run out of options. Because when you move, it will be the move no one expected, the move that leaves them speechless. Chosen one, your silence is not emptiness. It is strategy. It is not weakness. It is strength. And when the time comes, you'll understand that every quiet moment was necessary. It brought you to the right position, the perfect aim, the exact timing. And when you strike, the whole world will know you were never defeated. You were only waiting for the right moment to rise. There is a truth that few have the courage to admit. Your greatest fear was never them. You were never afraid of criticism, never afraid of being judged, never afraid of the silence from the crowd. You faced all of that. You've stood through it. You've walked through it. The only thing that truly made your soul tremble was your own power. You know that if one day you let go of all restraint, if one day you stopped softening yourself to make others comfortable, if one day you opened your mouth and spoke the truth you've been holding in your heart, the ground beneath them would shake. You're not afraid of how they'll react. You're afraid your truth is too sharp, too blazing, too intense for those around you to handle. How many times have you sat quietly in a room and told yourself, don't speak, don't act, don't reveal it all? Not because you didn't know what you could do, but because you knew exactly what would happen if you did. You understand that when a chosen soul fully unleashes its energy, it doesn't just shift the atmosphere, it breaks structures. It burns through false relationships, exposes the masks, and reveals the things people aren't ready to face. And you know not everyone is prepared for that. The world sees your silence and thinks you're afraid of them. But the truth is the opposite. You stay silent because you're afraid for them. You know that if you release the fire within you, nothing can hide anymore. And with compassion, you've chosen to hold back. You've chosen to restrain. You've chosen to walk away from the table instead of flipping it over. Chosen one, this is the real fear. The fear of someone who knows exactly who they are. You don't fear defeat. You fear that your intensity might shatter things that haven't been built to withstand it. You don't fear losing. You fear that when you finally let go, others may lose the comfort they cling to. There are moments when you want to scream, to release, to set everything free. But then you take a deep breath and choose silence. Because you understand that truth doesn't always need to be spoken immediately. Truth needs timing, context, maturity. And you know, if released at the wrong moment, truth can burn rather than guide. You're not afraid of confrontation. You're not afraid of conflict. You're afraid that when you speak with your full strength, it won't be a conversation. It will be an earthquake. You're afraid that when you stop holding back, what's been buried will rise, and nothing will ever be the same again. They call your silence cowardice. But in reality, it is compassion. It is wisdom. It is the self-awareness of someone who carries a kind of power not everyone is ready to face. Chosen one, know this. Your restraint is not weakness. It is the mark of mature strength. A great fire knows when to burn and when to rest in embers. A mighty river knows when to flood and when to flow quietly beneath the surface. And you, chosen soul, have learned that art. You may not realize it, but your restraint has protected many from collapse. Your silence has kept relationships from falling apart. Your mercy has delayed the exposure of truth, not because you were scared, but because you loved. But one day, you will know. One day, your heart will tell you that truth can no longer be held back. And when that moment comes, you won't be afraid anymore. Because you'll know the world is ready. Or, at the very least, you're no longer willing to remain silent. And when you speak, when you step forward, when you reveal your full self, it won't be an emotional explosion. It will be revelation, chosen one. Do not believe that your silence makes you weaker. It makes you stronger. Do not think that restraint means limitation. It means mastery. And when the time comes to release it all, it won't be chaos. It will be prophecy. It will be a truth no one can deny. Remember, you were never afraid of them. You've simply been learning how to manage the power you carry. And that is true strength, not the strength to destroy, but the strength to hold, to wait, and to love, even when you could have erupted. After everything you've been through, the silence, the restraint, the retreat from the world, you finally come to a truth that perhaps you should have known all along. You've never truly heard yourself. Your voice has been buried under too many layers of noise, the expectations of family, the comparisons of society, the judgment of those who never truly understood you. So many voices crowding your mind, you couldn't tell what was truth and what was illusion they fed into you. There were days when you lived like a puppet, pulled by strings of pressure and expectation. You smiled when you didn't want to. You nodded when your heart said no. You kept walking down a path that was never yours, simply because the noise outside was too loud. And then, one day, your soul forced you to stop, not because you were weak, but because you needed to be operated on. Chosen one, the silence you're experiencing is a soul surgery. It's like a spiritual operation, where all noise is shut down so the cosmic doctor can touch the deepest places, the places where old wounds have been hidden for far too long. This is not disappearance. This is a sacred operating table, where your soul is being reconnected, where the false layers are being cut away, where healing begins at the root. Do you remember the long nights when you turned off the lights, turned off your phone, and the only sound left was your breath? At first, it felt uncomfortable. The silence echoed like a chamber where all your memories, all your pain, all the truths you'd avoided came rushing in. You wanted to play music, to talk, to escape, but this time you couldn't. The universe made you stay, made you face it, made you listen, and slowly, through the tears and the trembling, you began to understand this wasn't punishment. This was rescue. The world may say, they've vanished, there's nothing left. But the truth is, you are lying on a sacred table, connected to invisible lines of truth. The universe is dripping anesthesia into your spirit, cleansing the falsehoods. Its spiritual light is shining through you, cutting away the darkness. And in that unconscious stillness, your blood is being changed. Your heart is being replaced. Your story is being rewritten. You have not disappeared. You are being redefined. And when this operation ends, you will rise as someone new, with ears that hear more clearly, with a heart that beats more honestly, with a soul that shines more purely. Chosen one, know this is the most critical phase. Because if you don't allow yourself to sit still, if you don't allow the silence to happen, you may never hear your true voice again. And that voice, more than anything, is what you need. It is the compass, it is the guide, it is the call from the one who placed you on this path in the first place. When all the noise fades, you begin to hear the questions you once avoided. Who am I really? Am I truly happy? Who am I living for? Am I being honest with myself? These questions shake you because they demand that you remove your masks, but they are also the keys to the door that leads you home. You no longer chase artificial light. You no longer try to please the crowd. You no longer search for validation and applause, because now you know all of that is illusion. The truth can only be found within you, and this silence is the only road that leads you back there. The world calls this failure, but the universe calls it homecoming. You are returning to the raw, untouched soul you came here, with no more masks, no more polish, no more performance, just you, rough, honest, and real, and that is enough. Chosen one, do not fear this silence. See it as a sacred bed where you are being healed. Don't panic if you feel like you're melting, because that melting is the sign you're being undone. Don't despair if no one sees you, because no one needs to. This journey is between you and the universe alone. And when you rise from this soul surgery, you won't need the old noise anymore. You'll carry within you a voice stronger than anything outside the voice of your soul, a voice no one can silence. And when you speak, when you move, the world will see. You never disappeared. You were simply being reborn to finally return home to your truest self. Chosen one, after lying still on the soul's operating table, after the noise has been turned down and you've begun to truly hear yourself, a new truth begins to emerge. To truly live, you must dismantle everything that no longer belongs to you. This is not disappearance. It is deconstruction. It is not death. It is liberation. You begin to see the walls you once called safety were actually chains. The roles you played, the masks you wore, they were all crafted to help you survive in a world of expectations and pressure. You were the peacemaker, the pleaser, the ever-burning flame always keeping others warm. But now, as you finally hear the voice within, you realize it was all a shell, and that shell must come down. This dismantling is not easy. It's like holding a hammer to a house you once called home. Every brick that falls carries memories. Every shattered window takes old images with it. And yes, it hurts. Because even when something no longer fits, we grieve its loss. But you know if you don't tear it down, you'll never have space to build something new. To outsiders, it looks like destruction. They think they're falling apart. But in truth, you are courageously dismantling the foundation built on fear. You no longer want to live off borrowed validation. You no longer want to walk paths paved by others' expectations. You want to begin again this time, in truth. Remember, demolition is never a sign of failure. It's a sign of readiness. Just like a builder who sees a rotting house, he doesn't try to hide it with fresh paint. He tears it down to rebuild from the ground up. And you, chosen one, are the architect of your soul. During this process, you begin confronting the borrowed beliefs. I have to shrink to be loved. I have to sacrifice to be accepted. I have to stay silent to keep the peace. These used to be your foundation, but now you see them for what they are: chains. And one by one, you remove them. You start naming the old cycles, the draining relationships, the soul-numbing jobs, the habits that pulled you away from your true self. You no longer run from them. You face them, and then you say goodbye. Painful, but necessary. Chosen one, this dismantling is a sacred turning point, because you cannot build something new on something false. You cannot lay a free soul upon a cage. You cannot live fully while clinging to beliefs that were never truly yours. And so, this dismantling is a blessing even if it makes you cry. You may feel empty. You may feel like your life is a construction site, messy, dusty, full of rubble. But remember, this is proof that you've had the courage to begin again. Proof that you chose to tear down the illusion so truth could rise in its place. People won't understand. They'll look at you and whisper, "They're not the same. They've lost their way." But you will smile, because they're right. You are not the same. And that was the entire point. You weren't born to remain unchanged. You were born to evolve. Chosen one, ask yourself, do you want to build a castle from truth or stay inside the rotting walls of lies? Do you want a foundation made of honesty or keep standing on the sand of compromise? Your answer will determine your direction, and you know it already. This time, you're no longer choosing comfort, no longer choosing the mask. You choose to dismantle. You choose the temporary emptiness so you can create something lasting. You choose new bricks crafted from courage, truth, and a soul that has been through fire and no longer fears it. Chosen one, this is the final step before your new beginning is born. This dismantling is not collapse. It is preparation. It is not the end. It is the necessary clearing for a new foundation to be laid. And this new foundation will never shake, because it won't be built from the noise of the world, but from the truth of your soul. Chosen one, after all the seasons of silence, the long nights in the cocoon, the melting down on the soul's operating table, the days you held the hammer to break down old walls, finally, the moment has arrived. The moment you are no longer in the dark. The moment you step forward, not to prove, not to seek applause, but simply to be. And this presence, it's unlike anything you've carried before. It is no longer a fleeting, fragile light, easily snuffed by the wind. This is a light that has walked through fire, sat in the dark, been forged in loneliness. It is a flame that no longer needs tending. Because it has become the Sunday, the world will look at you and say, "Where did they come from?" They'll believe you rose from nowhere. that you appeared out of the void. But you know the truth, you were never gone. You were silent, preparing to be reborn. And now, that rebirth is undeniable. This is the moment you finally understand why you had to walk through every hard season. Without the silence, you wouldn't have learned patience. Without the dark, you wouldn't have discovered light. Without the tearing down, you wouldn't have had the space to build. Every trial, every scar, every time they dismissed you, it all became the foundation you stand on now. And in this very moment, the number 888 appears like a prophetic seal. If you've seen it on clocks, in dreams, in fleeting glances, know this: it is not random. 888 is the number of triple beginnings, of multiplied abundance, of boundless expansion. It is the universe's confirmation that says, you have completed the cycle. You have passed through death and rebirth. Now, you enter the season of new life, larger, deeper, brighter. 888 is the number of infinity. No beginning, no end. Just a continual flow of creation, of grace, of becoming. And when it shows up, know this: you are not just starting again. You are starting anew in all three dimensions: body, mind, and soul. And this new beginning will be unlike anything you've ever known. Chosen one, this is the time you no longer need to bow your head. This is the time to lift it, not in arrogance, but in knowing. You know who you are. You know why you're here. And you know this path ahead isn't about pleasing the world. It's about living fully into the calling etched deep in your soul. Let this rising not be a performance, but a quiet declaration. A declaration that you have survived, that you have transformed, that you have overcome. A declaration that you are no longer defined by old wounds, old names, old whispers. A declaration that you are fully, fiercely, unapologetically you whole, grounded, unshakable. The world won't understand. They will ask, how did they become so strong? But you won't need to explain, because true strength doesn't come from words, it comes from presence. When you enter a room, your energy will speak. When you speak, truth will ring. And when you are silent, even your silence will shift the air. Chosen one, this is your season. The season where you step out of the shadows, not for revenge, not for attention, but for life. The season where you no longer chase anything because you are the answer. You are the prophecy. You are the sign. And if you hear this and your soul stirs, take it as an invitation. Leave behind the number 888 as your seal of readiness, as a declaration that you are prepared for the beginning that multiplies, the beginning that ignites, the beginning that breaks every former limit. Chosen one, your rising needs no fireworks, no stage. It is already powerful enough in presence alone. And when you walk forward, it won't just shift the room, it will shift reality. Remember, you were never defeated. You simply pulled back to prepare for the launch. You never lost your fire. You only quieted so the flame could mature. And now, that flame is no longer a spark. It is a Sunday, and the sun needs no applause. It only needs to rise. Chosen one, welcome home to yourself. Welcome to your season of 888. This is not just a beginning. This is a triple birth. A birth into infinity. A birth into your truest, most undeniable self. If you've walked this journey with me, know this: you didn't arrive here by accident. You were brought here to hear these words, to remember that you were never weak, never lost. You were simply being refined. You were being reborn. You were being prepared for something far greater than you imagined. Remember, your silence was never failure. It was the whisper of the universe saying you were being rewritten, being made ready for the day you would rise, unshakable. And that day is today. I wish you peace in your mind, clarity in your heart, and resilience in your soul. May you always remember you are chosen, you are protected, and you are on your divine path. If these words found you, leave a sign, a comment, a number, or a quiet yes to the calling you feel within. Share this with someone who is also silent, also cocooned, so they know they are not alone and their moment is coming too. And if you wish to continue walking this path of awakening, subscribe so that when the universe speaks again, you'll know it's speaking directly to you. Chosen one, you survived. Now, live. You were hidden. Now, shine. And as you rise, it won't just be the world that shifts, reality itself will tremble. Welcome home. Welcome to your season. And welcome once more to yourself. Grateful that you chose to spend these moments in the light of this story. If it touched your soul, please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so the next whisper of light may find its way back to you.